Okay, hello and good morning everyone. Welcome to JFD Brokers Traders Espresso with me, Dr. Stoxx. Today's the 16th of July 2018, so welcome to this morning session, the first for this week, where we're going to have a look at a few instruments that I believe are quite important to have a look at. And but as always, before we do that, let's quickly have a read through our risk disclaimer. So the content of this webinar does not constitute investment advice or investment recommendation and does not in any way constitute an invitation to acquire any financial instrument or product. As always, a few seconds for you to read the rest and we can continue. Also, just a very quick reminder of our JFD Brokers research page, where you can go in and have a look at different analysis that we do on a daily basis, throw out different trading shoutouts, and so we feel free to kind of check us out, and I believe you can find something useful for yourselves here. But for now, let's quickly have a look at the charts. Now, the first one I want to touch on is the Euro Stoxx, and this index is looking quite interesting. And especially on the bigger picture here, looking at the daily chart, you can see that it continues to hold here above this upside support line. This long-term upside support line has been running here since around the 27th of June 2016. So we can see that recently had a nice bounce here from that line, and actually more specifically in the beginning of July, in the first days of July, and we managed to push higher. Certainly now it's currently meeting its short-term kind of tentative, I would say, resistance line, which has been running here since around the 21st of May. Let's keep an eye on that one. We can see that a level of 34.80 proved to be quite a good area of resistance. So let's see if that actually breaks again or not. But we can see that, yep, at the moment we are stuck here between the 34.80 and the 34.20 mark. So keep an eye on this little range, guys. I mean, especially also on this, let's say, tentative, a resistance line. If we get a nice pop here through the upside, we could start positioning ourselves for higher levels. And we do have another downside resistance line running here. So a midterm, I would call it probably a midterm downside resistance line, which has been running here since around 23rd of January. So which could be a potential area where the price could stall on the index if we get a nice push here to the upside. So potentially, I mean, like I said, keep an eye on these levels. There are some good ones to play around with, and certainly on the downside, if we do get a move below this 34.20 mark, well, we could start examining the downside, and we could start aiming for this upside support, this long-term upside support line that has been running since 2016. So for now, guys, keep an eye on this little formation here. We could eventually start popping to the upside if this continues to push towards this tentative downside resistance line. Now, another one that I really want to show you is the WTI. Now, the WTI is at an interesting spot, I would say, because we are trading slightly above this long-term upwards moving trend line here that has been running since around the end of August 2017. Certainly we can see that it has been broken here to the downside a few times here, and then actually we managed to move back up again. Now last week we saw this sharp decline on Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken, so we moved lower here. Certainly almost managed to kind of touch this trend line on Thursday, but still reversed back to the upside, and now we're kind of stuck here at around this level here, at around the 70.50 mark. Now, if we look at the 4-hour chart on this one, so this is how we could potentially start positioning ourselves. So this is where we found its where the commodity found its resistance here at around this 71.65 area, approximately there. Let's quickly mark that one. There we go, around here. And this is how it could look if we start breaking it to the upside here. If we start breaking this this 71.65 area approximately there. Now this is how you could eventually position yourselves. So let me just highlight it here, and we could eventually probably maybe put a trade here, something like that, on an entry of slightly above the 71.65, and aim for the low, the high, sorry, the highs that we had here around 74 mark. So this high that we had here on the 11th of July. So keep an eye on that one, guys. Certainly good level to watch. Let me just kind of put this one right there, and certainly with a potential stop loss of around this area here, which could be eventually broken here. If it's broken, then it could open the path towards this long-term upwards moving trend line for a test. So for now, certainly keep an eye on this level. Keep an eye on this upper side, the 71.65 mark. If, let's say, if the commodity decides not to push towards this area here and it just wants to move lower, this is where it could become tricky. Probably should stay away from entering any short positions, just because we need to see a clear break below this upwards moving trend line in order to kind of start positioning ourselves for a further drop. But for now, just kind of keep an eye on this line here. If we do get a move lower, that's fine, just keep an eye on it. If we reverse back to the upside, this could be a signal that this commodity doesn't want to move lower, and we could start aiming for higher lows, just the way I just kind of showed you guys. And certainly we could start aiming for slightly higher levels again than for these highs that's around the 74.80 mark that we saw in the beginning of July. So good levels to watch here, guys, and especially this long-term upwards moving trend line that has been broken already once here, but we could maybe see another break here and a move lower. So and a few pairs that I really wanted to touch on, guys, quickly is the first one is the euro dollar, of course. So with the euro dollar, this pair continues to trade within this I would say rather narrow, rather wide range. I would say that, not narrow one, but rather wide range. And we're stuck here between the 118,400 and the lows that we saw here at around 115,100. So approximately around the 330 pip range here. Quite a big range. Certainly not saying anything, but nevertheless, keep an eye on it. For now, we're gonna probably stay more neutral on this one, on the bigger picture, and on the probably in order to kind of position ourselves for a longer term trade. We would need to see either a break here through this 118,400, where we could start aiming for higher levels, and initially, of course, aiming for the psychological 120 level. But if that doesn't hold, we do have a downwards moving resistance line running here since around the 16th of February, which could eventually play out as a nice area of resistance here. So if, of course, if the pair decides to move above the 118,400, and then of course above the psychological 120 level. On the downside, on the bigger picture, we do have this 115,100 level that proved to be quite a strong area of support a few times. So basically a nice good close below this level here could open the path towards lower levels. And if we look at the bigger picture here, we start examining the previous levels. So probably we can remove this one, but probably a very good level to watch could be this area right here, and that's around the 113 mark. So let me just kind of quickly remark this. There we go. So 113 area could be a quite a potential good area to test on a longer term if we get a nice break here below the 115,100. And that's what's in regards to the bigger picture. On the 4-hour chart, let's quickly put that one on. And on a 4-hour chart, certainly if you are a fan of kind of taking more shorter term trades, then a potential idea here could be something like this. We can see that last week the pair found this nice support here at around 116-100 mark, so a very good level to watch. Certainly if we get a nice pop break here below this, this is where we could potentially position ourselves for a possible short selling trade, and we could eventually maybe aim for something like this. So potentially entering a position here around the 116-100 and then aiming towards the 115-100 mark, approximately there. Or you can actually aim for a little bit higher, just in case if it doesn't reach the 115-100. So you could aim for the 115-200, something like that. And of course you put your stop loss carefully. Now this is where the important thing comes in, finding your stop loss. It depends on your risk appetite, of course, but something like this, you could put a stop loss around these lows here at around 116.650, something like that. So you would allow a bit of area for a maneuver. Certainly if you want to be a bit more risky, then you could maybe kind of let's say minimize it and put it here, put it around the 116.500, something like that, and then yep, you could probably go for a better risk reward ratio here. But nevertheless, keep an eye on it. Certainly decide on the stop loss yourself, but like I said, this is the area to potentially watch out for if suddenly this would go here towards the 116-100 and then reverse back to the upside. So something like this, guys, could play out. Certainly let's get rid of it for now. On the upside, well, I mean, let's say if we start kind of looking into tentative lines, let's say something like this, then you could eventually play out, let's say, on a break here. But to be honest, we do have some better levels here, better resistance levels here. So for now, probably this tentative downside line could be irrelevant, and we would need to see a nice move here above this 117.600, then eventually of course above the 117.900, and if we start breaking it to the upside, then this is where it's going to be interesting, because if we do get a break here above the 117.900, this could open the path towards the 118.400, this upper side of the range that I was just talking about. So guys, for now, like I said, keep an eye on it. It is at a tricky spot, especially looking at, like I said, at the daily chart. We are stuck here also below this 50 EMA here, shown as the red line. So let's see if it holds. If it does hold, then we could see a reversal back to the downside, where we could start aiming initially for the 116-100, and then the trade idea that I've just talked about, and where we could aim for the 115-100, the lower side of the range. Another ranging pair that I really wanted to show you guys, well, slightly, let's say, ranging pair, but nevertheless it's looking quite interesting. Let me just get rid of a few of these, not to kind of overcrowd the chart. We can see that, yep, on Friday we had a reversal here, a strong reversal from this level here, the 131 mark, where the pair kind of moved back above the 132. Certainly kind of having a really strong reversal here, and this is how the last week's candle closed. We can see it still closed in the red, because the whole week the pair was dropping and moving lower. But like I said, yeah, on Friday, even though we had the strong good push to the upside, still it wasn't enough to kind of recover enough enough losses, let's say, like that. So for now, looking at this picture, we can see that let me just kind of shift it a little bit higher here. We can see that we are stuck here between the 133.65 mark, approximately there, and the 130.50. So for now, certainly on the bigger picture, we would need to see a nice move here above the 133.65 in order to kind of start considering higher levels. But for now, of course, we're just observing these. I will probably have a look at the shorter term levels in a few seconds. So But let's say for now, on the bigger look, on longer term, from the longer term perspective, we need to see a nice break here above the 133.65 in order to kind of start considering higher levels, where we could start aiming for the 134.70, or even maybe slightly above that, the 136.15. So good levels to watch here from the longer term perspective. On the downside, we would need to see a nice move here, not only below the 131, but also below the 130.50 mark in order to kind of consider lower levels. This is how it's looking on the 4-hour chart right now, and certainly we can see a nice strong push here to the upside. Now, of course, keep an eye on these highs that we had here. So good potential area of resistance could be seen here at around 132.85. Now, if we do get a nice pop here above that, this could open the path towards this this upper side, this level that I was just talking about, the 133.65. Now, we could end up testing that level, because with this, a break above the 132.85 could be seen something like where the bulls could start jumping in and driving the pair further. On the downside, to be honest, we would need to see a good reversal back down and a move below this level right here, below the 131, in order to kind of start considering the further declines, because at this point it could just kind of continue ranging here, moving sideways, you know, taking out all the traders who are willing to enter a slightly longer position. But that's why we were probably going to remain neutral on this one for now and just going to observe the price action. And the last pair that I really wanted to touch on, guys, is the USDJPY. Quickly, the daily chart before I ran out of time, and we're seeing a nice move here. Yet last week we saw this weekly candle closing quite strongly here in the positive zone, and we could eventually see some continuation to the upside this week. So for now, keep on monitoring it. We're certainly above this upside upwards moving trend line that has been running here since the around the end of March, and at the moment we can see that last week the pair kind of found its resistance at around 112.800. This probably will be the key point for a potential move higher. If we get a nice break here above this 112.800, we could start positioning ourselves for the 113.400, approximately there. Good level to watch, of course, but on the downside, probably let's have a look at the 4-hour chart for this one, and this is how you could position yourselves for a downside potentially. Now, this is the level to watch here, the 112.250 mark, approximately there. Now, if we do get a break here below, be careful. We do have the 21 EMA here as well, but if this continues to push lower, this is where it could become interesting, because we could start positioning ourselves for a touch of this 111.400. Now, this level acted as a very good resistance area here in May, which was also the highest point in May approximately, and we could, like I said, end up moving lower here if we get a break here below this 112.250, and especially if closed below this 21 EMA here on the 4-hour chart. Okay, guys, I hope you found it useful. Thank you very much for watching and listening. Please join me on later on at my Traders Tea Time at 13:15 GMT, 14:15 British Summer Time. But for now, I hope you have a good European session, and bye-bye.